Hey everyone, it's Daru. Today we're going to show you how to tile a kitchen backsplash in subway tile, and we're stacking it. Very popular. I love this. Whether you do horizontal, vertical, or traditional, we have you covered. And do you know that you only have 4 minutes of work time on your grout? That is not a lot of time. I can't do it in 4 minutes. I'm going to share with you my tips for grouting, tile installation, and trims. When do you use them? When don't you? All of that, we've got you covered. Let's get started with the tools, because that is going to make your job a whole lot easier. Let's get started. What you want to start off with is a good tile adhesive. I've used this one before. Now, the 3 reasons I like it: it's easy to use, it's good for non-wet areas, it has a really, really good bond. That's critical for tile installation. And thirdly, it's priced well, so it's not super expensive, and I like it. And I've used it before, I'll use it again. So next up is your tile grout. Now, the reason I chose this one is this right here. I don't know if you can see. My tile is not bright white, so I chose it because of the grout color. This was a little pricey. It's snow white. You can choose a different grout that is better priced and affordable, and those work really well. I do like ready mix grout that's in a tub. I don't want to be mixing. You can buy others that you mix, but I like a ready mix grout because it's simple. Setup time was only 4 minutes. You're gonna see what happens. I had to work so fast, so I will use this again though, because I have half a tub left. So I'm gonna finish up the other side of the kitchen with it. So that there is the grout color that I'm using. Right there is your V-notch trowel. See those little V's? Now these are actually quite small, and they're small because my tile is a little bit small. So it's only 2 inches here. So what's really critical is the size of your tile is going to determine which size trowel you're going to use. So if I had a bigger tile like a subway, subways are typically 3 inches across. If it's that or bigger, I would use a square notch trowel instead. So double check that for sure when you're doing your tiling. So I also use a laser level. I've had this for a number of years, and this is a cross laser. These are great. It has a horizontal plane and a vertical plane, so you can make sure everything is plumb. What I did is I put it on the countertop where the camera is, and I just moved it along, and just to make sure that those vertical lines are lining up as you want. So very handy. I also like to use a 4-foot level and just do a manual check as well, because, you know, why not? You're also gonna need is a tile sponge. As long as it's clean, it's flat, that's all you need. This one had a little microfiber thing on it. Good for polishing. I have not polished these yet. And don't forget your electrical boxes. Your tile is gonna be ahead of your drywall, more than likely, and you might have a gap. A box extender would be a legal and safe way to extend your electrical box so your wall plate lines up nicely and you don't have any of those openings around the sides, because that's not good. Easily fixed though. So this is a grout float that I use. I like it, it's great. It's a little bit squishy and bouncy. So the key with grout is you're gonna go like this along the top, and you're gonna use muscles. Someone like me, I'm really gonna give a lot of muscles there. And you wanna make some big long passes if you can. And I have cardboard on the ground because, you know, it does get messy. Big passes, you're gonna do it at a 45-degree angle. And then once you get it in, pushing it into all of your joints, because you have to really pack it in there. You wanna clean it up with a 90. But I'll show you how to do that, and I got some tips for you coming up too. First things first, you wanna check for level. Critical step, because I have a very common problem here, and that is I've doubled up on my spacers here in the center. So my gap here is going to be 1/8, and right here it's gonna be a 1/8 gap, and that's gonna be covered by silicone, and then everywhere else is gonna be 1/16. So that is a very minor difference, but it's critical that you have expansion gaps. I'm gonna get into more on why that's important coming up, but you definitely wanna maintain that along your countertop. Critical step. And that brings us to tile installation. I'm installing a 5 by 15 centimeter porcelain tile. Whatever pattern you're using, follow along. I've got my tile adhesive. I like this one, I've used this before. I'm gonna put it on my drywall, and you can see I'm actually using the flat side. You just wanna get it down. What I'm doing is I'm pushing it into the substrate. I'm pushing it into the drywall in this case. And if you make a bit of a mess, it's okay. I've got cardboard down there. Give it a scoop and push it in So we're just doing a few passes here. And this is really great adhesive. It's in a tub, it's easy to use, no fuss, no muss. You can also use this side, because I got some globs. Okay, so once you have a little bit of tile adhesive on there, you can also use this side, because I got some globs. You can use the notch side of your trowel. And the key here is the trowel notches have to go in the same direction. And you want to have it at about a 45-degree angle as you go up your wall. And if you make a mess, that's okay. See, and I made a bit of a bald spot there. If you make a little bit of a mistake, don't sweat it. See, that's not enough coverage. So I'm just gonna put some more on there because I'm talking to you guys, right? Okay, so you make a mistake, you don't have enough tile adhesive, go back over it. Now you do. There you go. Put that in. I'm just gonna center it up. And what I'm doing is I'm bringing it close together and then push it off to the side there. And I'm gonna throw a spacer in to keep my distance looking good. We're gonna move on to the counter now. I'm gonna continue on pushing the tile adhesive into the drywall. As we continue our first course, that just means our first row. That's just the first line. We're moving on here, and we're just trying to maintain the level line that we have going on here. Adjusting the shims so that the bottom is where the irregularity will be in the tile. Now that we finished our first row, we've made our cuts, we can move on to the second. And take your time as you tile. You don't have to go super fast. I'm a general contractor. When I usually do houses, I work with tilers, so they're faster than me. But this is not a race. Give yourself a break. You're doing this yourself. You're doing a good job. Take the time you need to do the job right. That's the most important thing. So anytime you're doing a vertical stack or a horizontal, I like to put spacers in the vertical lines like I'm doing right here, if you take a look. And that is just so that when you finish your tiles, you want to make sure that all of your vertical lines in your stacked are completely plumb. You want them to look really nice. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just taking my spacer and I'm going to slide it in the corners because I don't want it to shift. And then I'm going to push it together that way. And try to keep an equal distance in between all your tiles. It will look nice. I also have a grout tip coming up. If this is your first time tiling and you're a little nervous, don't worry, there is a tip to grout that will help you out. At this point, I just check that the grout lines are lining up with my level. You can use your laser level. It's also good if you want to check that you're staying consistent and level as you go each course you build. So I'm just using a wax pencil here to mark out my tiles. I'm gonna set these on spacers and line up these openings here with my drywall openings and make my cuts. I'm gonna connect those in a line. And then don't forget the opening for your screw hole, which will be here. And I'm gonna take my two other tiles here and take it out to my wet saw for some cuts. A reminder, plug this in to a GFCI because this is water and electricity. The two don't mix. All right, we're gonna turn this on and do some cuts. Very quick for little L cuts, yeah? This is my manual tile cutter. I use this for a lot of cuts. And I'm gonna cut from the front. And this is a manual one that I use for making multiple cuts. Line up your cutter. I'm just gonna apply some pressure here. And that's just scoring the tile, and you can do a couple passes over that. And then you're gonna take this little paddle here, the breaker, and push down. And that is really the quickest way to get nice clean cuts if you're doing a lot of subway tiles. That's a pretty crisp, nice cut, I think. I'm trying to figure out which side's the cut edge because it looks pretty good. By the way, this is porcelain and it cut really well. This is just a tile file. You can file it. That looks pretty good for a cut tile on the tile cutter. That's what I would do to make things very fast and efficient for a nice finished edge. What about you? You have some tips? Throw it down in the comments, please. You're gonna notice I used a lot of these. These are horseshoe spacers, 1/16 of an inch. They're my favorite right now for wall tiles. This size, your tile is the star and not the grout. I like that. The advantage of the horseshoe spacer is that there's actually more surface area. You can see that in the four corners when those tiles meet. That helps keep your tiles nice and stable, especially if you're doing a vertical stack like I am, or if you're doing a horizontal stack, which is also very popular. You're gonna notice that I have a 1/8 spacing right here in the corner where the cabinet meets the tile. And that is to maintain an expansion gap so that when the home moves and the tile moves on this wall, which it will invariably do, we have a nice expansion gap, and that is just gonna be hidden in the corner. You're not even gonna notice it. So for a corner like this, if you don't have a cabinet, you can use this tile trim. Give you a nice crisp line there like that. It would blend in nicely, right? That would sort of disappear as you tile. Now I know people typically use a sponge for this. I actually like using a microfiber cloth because I can get my finger in the grooves there and it helps in between the tiles and keep it nice and clean. And while I'm here where this hood fan is, if you do like the looks of this, I built this for $50. Contractors will charge you a lot more for a custom vent cover like this. I will link in the description if you want to try out this project. It's super simple. Grout time. So when it comes to grouting, my job is to fill and pack the tile joints with grout as quickly as I can. I'm pushing the grout into the joints at a 45-degree angle, moving diagonally across the tile. Now it is important to know that my grout time has a work time of only 4 minutes. After 4 minutes, I have to immediately go over the tile with a lightly damp sponge. This is going to remove all of that extra grout that is sitting on top of the tile. So because my grout is setting up so fast, what I'm doing is grouting in sections. So ideally you want to do this all at once. If you have a friend to help you, that's better. I'm just keeping this clean so the grout doesn't dry and then make a mess. And I'm sort of doing this in batches because I'm just not fast enough. So this is what I'm doing to sort of mitigate any problems. And now I'm gonna remove the excess grout and let that set up. I'm kind of going at a 90 with my trowel to remove the excess grout. Just gonna let that set up for a bit and then I will come back. I'm just using my finger on the grout line. But most of the time you don't have to do this. Using your sponge is really all you'll need. Now I'm being very gentle with this sponge. One of the biggest mistakes is when you're doing this is pressing into the grout lines. I'm just cleaning the surface of the tiles because I don't want to take out too much grout when you make a pass. So very gently go over your tile. Now a tip for you guys, I actually have a little extra grout in a little baggie here. If you gouge too much out, it's okay. Just take a little bit on your finger, push it in, and then let it set up for the 4 minutes or however long, and then gently wipe. And it's a good little safety measure in case you take out too much grout. And just remember, my countertop, it was a little high there and it's low there, so my tiles are slightly uneven here at the bottom. Mistakes are gonna happen sometimes. As you do a DIY project, it's no big deal. That is where the learning happens. So treat yourself with kindness. If you make a mistake, it's okay. I make mistakes, and that's what the salt and pepper is there for. Shh, don't tell anyone, okay? We'll see you in the next one, everyone. You're awesome.